this as they link us back in to that internet system, that beast brain. They're linking us, they're tying us all back in. The web is getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, let's go to another call here. Tommy in Tennessee, you're on the air with Fritz Springmeier. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Alex. How you doing?
Good.
I got to help you out with this media name. I believe I got it. The word has its origins in Greek theater, describing a character who wore a mask, normally describing an unregenerate person who was self-deceived. They have received their reward. Their reward is they were seen by men, nothing more. It's hypocrite. How about the hip-hop media?
That's a good idea. I appreciate your call. Fritz, what is a good name for the prostitute, Decepticon, sewer stream, traitor stream media, elite brainwashing media, globalist media? What would you call the mainstream media? What really describes them?
Boy, you have some great language there. It's all a great show. This one Grand Master in the Illuminati, he said, it's all just theater for the masses. It's just a big show that they put on. And but you said it very well. You know, it's and then they tell us that they print all the news that's fit to hear. Well, apparently all the news that's fit for them to give us.
That's a very arrogant statement hidden in plain view right there. I mean, really, it is the theater, the fiction media. The mainstream media is, even when it's real stuff they're talking about, they always put some spin on it. And I always wondered why they lie, even when the truth would suit them, because they want everything just to be false. It's just part of what they do. All right, I know we got a bunch of other callers. Folks, you can stay on and talk to Bob Chapman if you want and others, but Fritz has got to go. He'll be back with us next week. The book is Bloodlines, the Illuminati, and it's available at Infowars.com. Thank you, Fritz.
Thank you, Alex. And bye for now to all the listeners.
Thank you. This is going to be an extremely jam-packed and important third hour today. Then we'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock Central, with Infowars Nightly News at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. We have a big article, investigative report up at Infowars.com that is so important to get out to everyone you know. FEMA camps and rendition hubs discovered. And it's by Kurt Nimmo, and it has a video report I compiled with Rob Dew. And what's crazy here is there's all these links to the admissions of the torture flights out of the U.S., that citizens are being grabbed, that the government says they can kill citizens, not just torture, admitting the Rex 84, admitting the FEMA camps, admitting all the facets of it, but still it's a conspiracy theory to say this is going on. That's like when Rand Paul got held for almost 2 hours. They just said, no, you weren't held for that. And no, when we hold you by force, you're not detained. And you're a conspiracy theorist. I've actually seen that in the news. They're calling Drudge a conspiracy theorist for linking to articles and videos of Newt Gingrich admitting he's for open borders and carbon taxes. The New York Times calls it a conspiracy theory. They call it conspiratorial dumping of twisted and manipulative negative attacks. Again, if you catch a guy coming out of your house with your television set and you're like, you're robbing my house, they're like, you're a conspiracy theorist. I think the average American might go, whoa, yes, sir, take it, take it. And by the way, you know, I'm going to break your nose. And you're like, you broke my nose. This conspiracy theory. Oh, I'm not bleeding. You're right. Here's a ball-peen hammer in the head. You know, actually kill you. And your wife walks up, you just killed my husband with a hammer. Conspiracy theory, it's like a trance word. The person goes, you're right, you're right. Yeah, I'm not even doing this show. It doesn't even exist. It's a in fact, I told Carnival, I guess, that owns that sub company that had the ship that wrecked into the rocks there. You know, they've been acting like they didn't do anything wrong, and the captain's been like, well, I was a couple miles off course for no reason. I feel like it, and you know, I got in the lifeboat and ordered dinner in the lifeboat, but everything's fine. You know, I did nothing wrong. I just told the company, just say it's a conspiracy theory. Just say the Mediterranean doesn't exist, Italy doesn't exist, that 8-story ocean liner doesn't exist, I don't exist. All right, I'm starting to be sarcastic here. I got a lot of financial news. Davos, the world leader meeting, and saying, how do we stop world revolution? And their answer is tax the rich. But you read the details, it's tax the middle class, give it to the bankers. They still want 100+ trillion, like they said last year, and give chicken feed to the underclass that everybody's being forced into, basically, to make everybody dependent. And that's the game plan there. And joining us to break that down is Bob Chapman of the International Forecaster, with always his great financial breakdowns. He did point out a long time ago, as many of our guests did, they would go into QE3. And now they announced, what, in the last week? Oh, we're going to have some QE3, but it's going to be different. The Wall Street Journal said, they don't really tell you how, but gold and silver have, of course, started their way back up with the world announcement that they're firing up the printing presses. So, Bob, what's happening right now in the world economy? What's the most important things that you've seen out of Davos, and what's happening with gold and silver right now, Bob?
Well, I think what's significant is that none of the media, the major at all, talks about the transference of funds from the Federal Reserve to the European Central Bank. And we're talking about $1 trillion. And they were to use prudent usage of funds like banks normally do, and they could jack it up to $10 trillion if they wanted to by borrowing against $1 trillion. And for those who don't know, right now, their leverage is 30 to 1. It was 70 a few years ago. And it shows you the risk that they've taken, and they will probably take into fractional banking. So what does that mean? It means that money is going to be almost endless for the next couple of years, flowing from the Fed through the European Central Bank to the banks. The banks, 523 of them, already received $600 billion. They're supposed to take that money and buy their own bonds, buy bonds from other laggard countries, and spend enough in loans to keep the economy from collapsing. The same plan we have here in America right now, only it's come in a different form, not the way it was done with the European Central Bank. And it looks probably like, at least from this viewpoint at this moment, Greece is probably going to not continue as it has. I think they'll default. In the U.S., I think they began their QE3 in January, just a couple of weeks ago. I expected them to announce it in June. Maybe it's going to be in March like they're talking about. And we're talking about the Federal Reserve going to the banks and buying their garbage. Those are bonds that aren't worth very much, and other bad loans and things like this. How much they're going to spend? Probably $800 billion to 1.2 or 3 trillion. And that money will go into the banks, and the banks will be able to buy treasuries, agencies, as well as make more loans to keep the economy going steady. Same is going to happen in Germany, Europe, and also in England.
All right, your phone was only breaking up just a bit, but I don't get how they can have the Wall Street Journal and others the last week and a half or so just calmly just say, oh, yeah, the Fed's going to have some more stimulus, but they're going to keep it under wraps. I mean, it just shows how incredibly secretive they've gotten. They've gotten even more secretive.
Well, at Davos, I saw the president of JPM say that he thought that Mr. Bernanke had done the best job ever possible. He was just a giant. And, of course, this is the same propaganda that you receive all the time. And Davos is just another Bilderberger meeting, for all intents and purposes, generated toward finance and economics.
Let me ask you this. What do you make of Soros coming out and saying the most dangerous time in history, we're all in deep trouble, I'm not having any investments, I'm not investing anybody's money, this is worse than, when I was, in World War II, yeah, we know, as a collaborator, helping round folks up and take their property. But, I mean, he's acting like now he had nothing to do with what's happened. And the fact that they're signaling that, and the fact that Homeland Security is now announcing all these new political crackdowns and this new takeover of local police they want, they always signal this stuff right before some big event, Bob. What do you say?
I think you're right. And, again, I don't know when it's going to come. It's been in process. Will they have it during the presidential campaign? Maybe. I just don't know. I do know that what you say about law enforcement and their relationship with the military is going on, and any listener on this channel knows that. I think there's a possibility, and you don't like to see these things happen, but I think, generally speaking, they're going to attempt to keep the stock market going sideways, somewhere between 12,500 and 10,000, or 13,000 and 10,000, somewhere in that area. And I've been looking at, I've been seeing all the emphasis on keeping the market up. I think there's a possibility now, from what they've had to say, that perhaps they may take the market down a little deeper than they would have otherwise in a presidential year. And I think that's what we get to look forward during the year. And as a result of all the spending, both in Europe and the United States, gold and silver are going to go bonkers. I mean, there's just no two ways about it.
Bob, obviously, what's the main driver? Not just QE3, but won't the fact they're going to keep interest rates at zero? I mean, what's bigger, the QE3 in driving up commodities, namely gold and silver, but oil as well starting to go up? I mean, is it QE3, or is it the announcement to keep interest rates at zero for the big boys?
Well, there's three spots here, and I'm going to give you spot number one that you didn't mention. Think about having the possibility of having $10 trillion in Europe. That is really where all the trouble can come from. And then you can follow up with QE3 and zero interest rates for 3 years. They have no intention of doing anything about anything other than what they've been doing. And while we're limping along, they're doing things that you've been talking about with TSA and FEMA, internment camps, and turning our law enforcement into military, which is a drastic mistake. And so it'll be a combination of things. The year's not going to be as bad as people think. Although the market could go down, say to 10,500, 11,500. That's possible. But otherwise, the market will probably stay even. But gold and silver are going to go through the roof. I mean, that's mega stimulus. And there's, total monetization. And so that's not going to stop.
Wow.
It's going to continue.
All right, stay there, Bob. Let's get into more news, calls, all coming up and popping in. Dr. Stan Monteith while Bob rides shotgun.
Do you know which 37?
I want to take a few calls for you, Bob. And then Dr. Monteith is a great guy. We love having him on the show. He never contacts us, though, and says, hey, I want to come on. I've got some breaking news, so it must be important.